Welcome everyone for viewing OSSA's 2020 awards presentation. I'm Sheriff Terry Rowan, Oregon State Sheriff's Association President. I hope you enjoy the presentation of our colors. I also hope you enjoy OSSA's 2020 Year in Review video. Thank you, Sheriff Garten, for putting this video together. Each year, our association's annual conference in December, we take time to recognize some of the outstanding public safety professionals who work tirelessly to keep our community safe. As we do every year, we will be providing a very short excerpt from the award winner's nomination. This is by no means meant to minimize any of these award winners, as each one of these individuals absolutely deserve their award. However, due to the constraints and the number of awards we are presenting, we must be brief. This year, because of COVID-19, the format has been changed from a formal in-person banquet ceremony to a virtual online ceremony. While our preference would have been to have the in-person ceremony, the OSSA Award Committee and Oregon Sheriffs felt it was very important to not cancel this event and instead have a virtual ceremony. We think you're going to enjoy the ceremony, and I'd like to thank you all for joining and viewing this today. I will begin the award ceremony with the President's Special Award. This award is given to deserving recipients for individual commitment and services to the OSSA President throughout the year. They make it possible for the sheriff in the role of president to perform and attend to OSSA business and ensure everything runs smoothly. Or their contribution to OSSA is so great, they really shape the organization and are deserving of the award. I can say so much about each of these deserving recipients, but I will try to be brief. Those that know me know that I can be a little wordy, but I'll try to be brief. First, I would like to recognize my wife of 31 years and counting, Tamara. I have listened to past and prior sheriffs talk about their wives and how they have aided them in their endeavors. But I need to add to that fact and tell you that unless you have someone behind you, 100%, it's hard to get through everything a sheriff has to get through. My wife, Tamara, is not only my wife, mother of my children, Tama to my grandchildren, but also campaign manager, life coach, cheerleader, fact finder, organizer, and so much more. She is the only one that can dig into the details of whatever the issue may be bugging me or what is before us as we move through really some uncharted waters. She is intuitive and has a way of raising my blood pressure, granted, but in the end brings calm to the otherwise turbulent series of events that initiate the conversation. Without a strong person behind you pushing you, who knows your heart, this career and my time as the president would have been very difficult. I love her, and she knows she is very deserving of this award. Thank you, Tammy. Love you. Next, Under Sheriff Jim Littlefield. I know many of you, and so it's not anything new for me personally, but I know many of you have that one person on no matter what, are the one you trust everything to and with. They are willing to step in and run things while attending to OSSA matters. Or they are your chief counsel and can bring clarity. I've known Jim for over 31 years, and he, along with his wife Cindy, have dedicated their lives to public safety and service of others. A common saying between Jim and I, the high road is a lonely road. I can't help but appreciate everything that he does. Thank you very much, Jim. Next, this should be to no surprise, Jason Myers, our executive director. What can I say about Jason? He is the glue that holds everything together. I may not always agree with him, he just has this way of convincing you to see your errors in your thinking or your errors in your ways, and finally brings everything full circle back to the right way or his way of thinking. He has the patience of Job and probably would tell you he has never heard a fellow sheriff say, well, I don't work for the governor. This man works tirelessly to stay in front of issues and can do wonders, hurting all of us in a collective direction. Fellow sheriffs, we have a gem in our executive director, and we need to do everything in our power to maintain that relationship with Jason. Thank you so much, Jason, for your advice. Just sort of heading us again in that same collective direction. And it goes without saying, the next recipient is kind of a partner in crime, so to speak, Kevin Campbell. We have a winning team when it comes to both Jason and Kevin. They are in the front and center on all things legislatively that impact OSSA, the sheriffs, and the offices we run. I know we don't always see eye to eye on many of the issues, but at the end of the day, they are our collective voice and have the ears of our legislators. I don't know if they have been truly recognized for all their efforts, but I think without their resolute integrity and reputation that precedes them, we would not be where we are today. So thank you again, Kevin, and very deserving of the President's Award. Next, Elmer Dickens. What can I say about Elmer that everyone watching doesn't already know? I'm still wondering where his Energizer batteries are. This guy can just go and go and go. I know he's available to all of us. He brings such clarity to issues impacting all of us and never says no, or that he is too busy to give you his opinion or counsel on something. He is certainly a subject matter expert that can be relied upon. I know I can reach out to him anytime, all hours, and he will be there to answer the call. Thank you so much, Elmer, for everything that you do for the Oregon State Sheriff's Association. Next is more my local team, my division commanders and administrative staff. Captain Dave Williamson, Captain Thorne Hearn, Lieutenant Stern Ward, Captain Karen Primer, Emergency Manager Tom Roberts, and my Executive Administrative Laura Franks. These are my, and in many offices, your most trusted members who have been engaged throughout the year in discussing, planning, and implementing a whole host of updated policies, procedures to address coronavirus, police reform, and so on. Participated in the mini council weekly and helped shape policy and best practices. They are where the rubber meets the road and implement some of the most difficult changes we've had to endure. They have been confident advisors on this year's OSSA activities. They are bright and full of energy and pick up the pieces and have kept my office running. Thank you very much, team, for always being there, always supporting not only OSSA, but me personally as your sheriff. Next, I'd like to give President's Awards to Sheriffs Gary Bentoncourt, Matt English, Craig Roberts, and Tim Svensson. Many of these guys are currently and or have been on OSSA's executive team. Many have served as president. I believe Tim will be stepping up next year or at the end of this year, at the end of the conference, to be OSSA's next president. At any rate, you guys have been my friend, and that's inspiration to me. I know I can count on you guys to be there, answer questions, and be a sounding board. Your dedication and contributions to OSSA and our fellow sheriffs is worthy of recognition. Craig, you will certainly be missed, but not forgotten. Thank you, sheriffs, for all that you do. Next, kind of unusual, I haven't heard this one before during our ceremonies, but I wanted to recognize some of our legislators. My local legislators, Senator Bill Hensel, Representative Greg Smith, and Representative Greg Barretto. As we are all well aware, there have been a whole host of issues and will continue to be a number of issues, LCs, bills, legislative actions that will be presented for consideration. When I've reached out to my local legislators to express our concerns with some of these bills, they have been very willing to listen and help shape their individual responses so that a really bad bill becomes palatable. It's amazing the work that they do. I know that they are very strong supporters of public safety, very strong supportive of Oregon sheriffs, and it's always good to know that we have someone in our corner. Last but certainly not least, my dad, Larry Rowan. He is the one who brought me to the dance. He enjoyed a career in public safety, and it introduced me not only to my wife, but my career. He worked for the sheriff's office in many capacities, to include jail commander and ultimately his appointment to sheriff in 1994 and 1995. He's 80 years old, and by the first of the year, he'll be 81, but is still performing public safety duties. He wears a uniform every day, attends to code enforcement efforts through our county planning department, and just has a tremendous amount of energy. He is the one that instilled in me a strong work ethic, courage, integrity, and always told me, if you tell someone you're going to do something, you better do it. No matter how hard it is, no matter the roadblocks that could come in your way, if you told somebody that you're going to do it, do it. And I've lived by that motto. I always like to use the term, my old pappy said. That's from a movie. I think it was The Maverick back in the day. But one of the resounding ones is, my old pappy always said, if you can't beat them, pick up something that will. Hammer, 2x4, whatever it may be. Or my old pappy always said, I got more miles going backwards than you got going forwards. So that's that Okie twang that comes out. As many of you may know, both he and I were born and raised in Oklahoma, and he spent a lot more time there. So he was able to get rid of his that Okie twang, or I was able to get rid of the Okie twang a lot sooner than he was. But I can bring it out every now and then if I need to. But seriously, he has been my inspiration to be the best I can be. I'm proud of his accomplishments. He's my hero. I love you. I love you, Dad. Here's to many more years of service to our community and service to the people around you. Again, thank you all for your professional, dedicated service. Thank you, sheriffs. And now I would like to introduce the award committee chair, Lincoln County Sheriff Curtis Landers, who will be the master of ceremonies for the remainder of the awards ceremony. Thank you all for viewing, and thank you, sheriffs.
Life members. It is my distinct privilege as the Awards Committee Chair to introduce this year's Life members. Life members are retired or past Oregon Sheriffs elected by the Board. This year's members have collectively over 181 years of law enforcement experience and over 62 years as Sheriff. Their combined years of knowledge and experience will be missed not only in their respective jurisdiction, but throughout the entire state. Clackamas County Sheriff Craig Roberts. Grant County Sheriff Glenn Palmer. Harney County Sheriff Dave Ward. Tillamook County Sheriff Jim Horton. And Walla County Sheriff Steve Rogers. Council Chair Recognition. Each year, the Oregon State Sheriff's Association recognizes the hard work of our council chairs. Each Sheriff's Association council is aligned with a particular discipline or required service that falls under the office of sheriff in Oregon. Council chairs are elected by their peers from around the state and serve in this position for a year term. Council chairs are responsible for setting and presiding over all council-related meetings and conferences. They also serve as a conduit of information from the council to the sheriffs and the sheriffs to the council. For their hard work and dedication this past year, we would like to recognize the following council chairs. Civil Command Council, Civil Clerk Taylor Rodriguez, Lynn County Sheriff's Office. Concealed Handgun License Subcommittee, CHL Unit Supervisor Paige Smith, Washington County Sheriff's Office. Enforcement Command Council, Commander Gil McGregor, Washington County Sheriff's Office. Tactical Subcommittee, Captain Paul Garrison, Deschutes County Sheriff's Office, and Lieutenant Nick Hunter, Marion County Sheriff's Office. Jail Command Council, Commander Tad Larson, Marion County Sheriff's Office. Parole Probation Command Council, Sergeant Dave Denny, Curry County Sheriff's Office. Search and Rescue Advisory Council, Deputy Bruce McGuire, Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. Command Council Awards. Command Council awards are based upon nominations from sheriff's offices across the state. The Command Council award winners are selected by Command Council membership. For the Civil Command Council awards, Civil Support Staff of the Year, Adriana Dominguez, Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. Civil CHL Support Staff of the Year, Linda Matney, Jackson County Sheriff's Office. Civil Deputy of the Year, Deputy David Avery, Jackson County Sheriff's Office. Civil Manager of the Year, Civil Unit Supervisor Todd Ellert, Washington County Sheriff's Office. Enforcement Command Council Awards. Volunteer of the Year, Reserve Deputy Ed Langerfeld, Klamath County Sheriff's Office. Supervisor of the Year, Sergeant Doug Asbo, Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, and Sergeant Shane Burnham, Marion County Sheriff's Office. Tactical Supervisor of the Year, Lieutenant Jim Krieger, Marion County Sheriff's Office. Jail Command Council Awards. Jail Deputy of the Year, Senior Deputy Ben McGowan, Marion County Sheriff's Office. Jail Supervisor of the Year, Sergeant Jeremy Ruby, Yamhill County Sheriff's Office. Parole and Probation Command Council Awards. Deputy of the Year, Deputy Pablo Garcia Gayton, Marion County Sheriff's Office. Search and Rescue Command Council Awards. Program of the Year, Umatilla County Search and Rescue. Coordinator of the Year, Lieutenant Joe Larson, Lynn County Sheriff's Office. Volunteers of the Year, Robert English, Umatilla County Sheriff's Office, and William Morris, Umatilla County Sheriff's Office. OSSA Awards. OSSA Awards are based on nominations submitted by sheriffs from across the state. All nominations are carefully reviewed by the OSSA Awards Committee. After committee deliberation, award winners are selected based upon the award criteria and the nomination. The OSSA Awards Committee consists of myself, Sheriff Travis Ash, Sheriff Mark Garton, Sheriff Tim Swenson, Sheriff Brian Wolf, and OSSA Executive Director Jason Myers. Meritorious Service Award. This award is presented for continued and dedicated service over a period of years to their Sheriff's Office or the Oregon State Sheriff's Association. Klamath County Sheriff's Office, Captain Mike Parsons. Dive Rescue Volunteer Captain Mike Parsons has served with the dive team for over 33 years. He has been on thousands of missions, saved numerous lives, and recovered countless items of evidence from aiding in the prosecution of criminal cases in Klamath County, as well as other counties that have requested his services. He has been an ERDI, SDI instructor, teaching hundreds of hours of dive classes. His attention to detail is remarkable. Parsons has helped dozens of divers achieve higher levels of certifications with his willingness to assist them with their classes and courses of study or teaching them himself. Taking shortcuts has never been an option for him, and he has always gone the extra mile to better not only himself and his teammates, but also assist dive coordinators to be better team members. If a call comes in for a dive mission, Parsons is there and has been for over 33 years. That's a level of volunteerism that has lasted longer than most law enforcement careers and continues to this day. Today, we recognize the merits of his contributions to dive rescue efforts around the state. Multnomah County Sheriff's Office Sergeant Mark Herron. For nearly 20 years, Sergeant Mark Herron has been a fixture of the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office Search and Rescue Program. Multnomah County's Search and Rescue Program consists of a head search and rescue coordinator, sergeant, and sworn sergeants and deputies who act as search and rescue coordinators for approximately 100 volunteer searchers. When Herron was a deputy, he joined the program in his third year with the Law Enforcement Division. And like other coordinators on the team, he helped the head coordinator lead several missing person and search and rescue missions. Throughout his early years with search and rescue, coordinators also assist the head search and rescue coordinator with training and managing the Sheriff's Office search and rescue volunteers, and represent the program throughout the community by participating in many special events. Herron's career is punctuated by Oregon's largest search, when in 2010, as many as 1,300 searchers from all over the state of Oregon and Southwest Washington came together to search for 7-year-old Kyron Horman. Herron was the initial search and rescue coordinator assigned to the Horman search, and like many, he worked tirelessly to find Kyron. Herron carried Kyron's case with him when he went into the Sheriff's Office investigation section, working several leads for years in the hopes of returning Kyron to his family. Herron was eventually promoted to the rank of sergeant, and as one of the leadership assignments, he was selected to head search and rescue coordinator for Multnomah County Sheriff's Office in 2013. Herron has been an exceptional leader, guiding the search and rescue program with great pride and professionalism. Under his guidance and leadership, Multnomah County Search and Rescue received the Oregon State Sheriff's Association Search and Rescue Program of the Year in 2017. Herron has significantly improved training, management, and supervision of the search and rescue program, and he has ensured that all SAR coordinators are prepared to provide outstanding incident command oversight for any type of mission. This was never more evident than in 2017, when a state of emergency was enacted due to the Eagle Creek fire, which burned approximately 50,000 acres and caused numerous evacuations throughout East Multnomah County. Herron and his team played a vital role in the successful evacuations and security management throughout the disaster. Herron has also represented search and rescue as a leader throughout the northern region of Oregon and at the state level with his participation with both the Mount Hood Search and Rescue Council and the OSSA Search and Rescue Advisory Council, SARAC. Herron has been a member of the Mount Hood Search and Rescue Council for 7 years and is currently the vice chair of the SARAC. His passion for finding the lost has never wavered, and for the past 8 years, he has brought classes on search and rescue and lost person methodology to the Metro Sergeants Academy. The Sheriff's Office has come to rely on Herron's ability to apply incident command management to any situation. For these and many other reasons, he is worthy of recognition for his dedication and service to the community and visitors of Multnomah County and the state of Oregon. Umatilla County Sheriff's Office, Sergeant Dwight Johnson. After retiring from a law enforcement career with the U.S. Forest Service, Sergeant Dwight Johnson joined the Umatilla County Sheriff's Office on a part-time basis in 2008 in the Courthouse Security Division. Johnson's knowledge and experience has been instrumental in keeping the courts in Umatilla County safe and secure, and he has fostered great working relationships with the court staff and the judges. In 2013, Johnson accepted the role of leading both court security and the search and rescue team. Over the years, Johnson and the search and rescue team have been involved in many successful life-saving search and rescue missions. In November 2014, he and his team of volunteers received letters of commendations for saving the life of a hunter who was lost and injured in the woods. The 59-year-old hunter spent 2 nights in the mountains during a rainstorm with only a 2-way radio, which he lost, a small amount of food, no tent, and insufficient clothing. Johnson utilized a helicopter from the Oregon Army National Guard to search for the victim in the dark. When they found him, Johnson and another rescuer rappelled from the helicopter as their only option to safely reach him. They led him to safety by hiking for about 6 hours over several miles of rugged terrain. After this heroic effort, Johnson gave all the credit to his team and those who assisted and took none for himself, the sign of a true leader and a person of great character. During one particular busy week in October 2019, Johnson responded and coordinated 3 successful overnight search and rescue operations, 2 of them in challenging weather conditions and difficult terrain. In February this year, Johnson and his team were tasked with the difficult mission of evacuating residents from historically high and rapidly flowing waters along the upper Umatilla River, Mill Creek, and the Walla Walla River. This mission, described by Oregon Governor Kate Brown as one of the largest evacuations in state history, was commanded by Johnson. 54 people, 10 dogs, 1 cat, and a rabbit were successfully rescued from the impacted areas. Once again, Johnson ensured that his team was credited for their hard work while he remained humble. In order to help grow and support the Sheriff's Search and Rescue Program, Johnson recently obtained 501c3 status for the Umatilla County Sheriff's Search and Rescue Team, which is now a tax-exempt nonprofit organization. He started the UMaSAR Foundation and as a web designer developed the website for the organization. Johnson also leads and has been instrumental in developing their UAS drone program, and he is an FAA certified small unmanned aircraft pilot for the Sheriff's Office. In his off-duty hours, he is actively engaged with the community organizations and is the executive director for the Neighbor to Neighbor Warming Station, which provides emergency temporary shelter for the homeless during the winter months. Washington County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Jason McLaughlin. Deputy Jason McLaughlin began his career with the Washington County Sheriff's Office in 2004. He immediately took an interest in traffic safety and more specifically in DUI enforcement. Since his hiring, McLaughlin has devoted nearly his entire career to the enforcement of impaired driving and serious injury and fatal crashes. He has been a tireless champion of impaired driving enforcement in Oregon, and where others with similar passion have divided their attention between enforcement and instructing or political influence, McLaughlin's focus has remained on hitting the streets every night and removing as many impaired drivers as possible from our roadways. He has spent the majority of his career on Washington County's multi-agency crash analysis and reconstruction team as a crash reconstructionist, as well as in the Sheriff's Office Traffic Safety Unit. His role on the traffic safety team as DUI enforcement deputy has afforded him the opportunity to live his passion and achieve the goal in removing impaired drivers from the roads and highways of our county. Earlier this year, McLaughlin's unending efforts reached a career milestone only achieved by a select few in the state. McLaughlin made his 2,000th arrest for driving under the influence of intoxicants. While the sheer number of arrests may be astounding to many of you, the level of dedication and sacrifice needed to achieve this goal is far more awe-inspiring, not only from McLaughlin himself, but also from his wife and children who have stood along his side, supported him throughout his career. While we do know the number of DUI arrests he has made, it's impossible to know the number of lives McLaughlin has saved as a result. However, statistics prove true, that number is also great and is very likely more than you can count on both hands. His compassionate demeanor with people from all walks of life has proven time and again by the thanks and appreciation he has received from victims, prosecutors, defense attorneys, and even offenders who have told him that their arrest was the wake-up call needed to change their lives. So Deputy Jason McLaughlin, thank you for your service and your dedication to the citizens of the state of Oregon. Distinguished Service Award. This award is presented to an individual who in the performance of his or her duties performs an act of outstanding or especially meritorious service while demonstrating selflessness and devotion to duty. Benton County Sheriff's Office Corporal Al Schermerhorn. Forest Patrol Corporal Al Schermerhorn was traversing the Siuslaw National Forest one day when he noticed a popular recreational shooting site was overrun with trash. Everything from spent casings, tractor tires, furniture, and appliances were left behind. Schermerhorn took the initiative to collaborate with his partners at the Bureau of Land Management and U.S. Forest Service for a Mary's Peak cleanup. Although it was a huge undertaking in the beginning to solicit support from local businesses and volunteers, he made the event come to fruition. Each September now, approximately 40 people meet at the highest point in the county for the Mary's Peak cleanup. Some of the participants are actively involved in shooting sports and outdoor recreation, while others are more involved in the project from an environmental and restorative aspect. Schermerhorn's initiative, resourcefulness, and teamwork results in the cleanup of the site, which builds goodwill in the community and promotes stewardship of our public lands. Schermerhorn has been service-oriented most of his life. He began his law enforcement career as a resident deputy in Monroe, Oregon in 1989. Next, he joined the Benton County Sheriff's Office as a reserve deputy in 1990. After years of dedicated reserve service, the Sheriff's Office hired Schermerhorn as a patrol deputy in 1994 and promoted him to the rank of corporal in 2002. In his 31 years with the Sheriff's Office, he has been a member of the SWAT team, Wilderness Response Team, Sniper Team Leader, Armorer, Range Master, Firearms Instructor, and Forest Patrol Deputy. He has also held every position in the Benton County Sheriff's Office Association: Secretary, Treasurer, Vice President, and President. In his spare time, Schermerhorn is involved with his church, assists his neighbors with chores, and splits wood for the elderly. He does this all while raising his teenage grandkids and a high school foreign exchange student. Forest Patrol Corporal Al Schermerhorn truly has a heart for serving his community, and we are pleased to present him with the OSSA's Distinguished Service Award. Clackamas County Sheriff's Office, April Everest. April Everest has been a full-time victims advocate at the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office for over 10 years. Throughout the endless turnover of sworn Sheriff's Office staff, Everest has been the constant. One of the first of her kind to be embedded with sworn law enforcement, she has provided untold benefit to survivors of domestic violence and law enforcement alike. Everest has been responsible for reviewing all domestic violence investigations to see what advocacy services could be reasonably provided. She is an empathetic and knowledgeable contact for survivors to connect with them. Everest was one of the original contributing employees of a Safe Place Family Justice Center for Clackamas County, the first accredited one-stop shop for victims of domestic violence, sexual violence, stalking, elder abuse, and human trafficking in the state. She remains assigned to the Family Justice Center as one of the few remaining original employees. In addition to her advocacy work, Everest co-coordinates several undertakings such as the Lethality Assessment Protocol Team, High-Risk Response Team, and the annual Child Abuse and Family Violence Summit. She also provides logistical assistance to many others, such as the Camp Hope America and National Family Violence Apprehension Detail. Everest also has the unfortunate honor of being a regional subject matter expert in law enforcement-involved domestic violence. She has provided advocacy services on a number of law enforcement-involved DV cases. Every new deputy who is employed with the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office spends time with Everest, learning about power and control, the cycle of violence, and the agency's expectation for domestic violence investigations. April's commitment to the citizens of Clackamas County has enabled the office to provide a much better product to survivors of domestic violence and has no doubt saved lives in Clackamas County. Deschutes County Sheriff's Office, Detective Thomas Lilienthal. Digital Forensic Detective Thomas Lilienthal of the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office has consistently shown his commitment to the Central Oregon community and to the pursuit of truth and justice. His passion for law enforcement and devotion to duty began at the age of 18 with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police. Lilienthal has shown such exemplary performance as a digital forensic detective that on top of his regular duties, he also develops training materials for the International Association of Computer Investigative Specialists and teaches for Cellbrite as a contract instructor. By taking on these roles, he has become a mentor to many investigators in Central Oregon, the Pacific Northwest, and around the nation. A specific murder trial highlights Lilienthal's outstanding skills and abilities. The Sheriff's Office originally assisted the Redmond Police Department by forensically analyzing the digital evidence for the Garcia Horn murder case. This case alleged the parents murdered their 5-year-old daughter by starving her. Although the original processing of this evidence was excellent, during the trial a new witness came forward with potentially new digital evidence. This witness was alleging she had evidence on her cellular telephone that would help exonerate one of the defendants. When this information first came to light, Lilienthal was given very little information, and the original evidence containing the communication was withheld. However, he was able to successfully call into question the credibility and truthfulness of the witness. The trial ended with a successful prosecution. The district attorney requested that the Redmond Police Department investigate this witness's truthfulness. Lilienthal was again called upon to provide his digital forensic expertise, and he was able to locate evidence which no current digital forensic tool could extract or identify. This evidence showed the witness not only lied, but also fabricated the entire social media conversations with the defendant, after which she attempted to conceal her involvement. Without Lilienthal's skills and perseverance, this evidence would likely not have surfaced. Detective Lilienthal is generous with his time in mentoring new staff, providing guidance in criminal investigations, and frequently assisting countless investigations in the pursuit of truth. He continues to demonstrate distinguished service to the Central Oregon community and to the law enforcement community as a whole. Klamath County Sheriff's Office dive rescue volunteer Lynn Mortensen. On December 23, 2019, the Klamath County Major Crime Team was investigating a missing person case believed to have actually been a homicide. The homicide would have occurred weeks prior, and the investigation determined a possible location of the victim's body in a pond of water in Klamath County. The Klamath County Sheriff's Office dive rescue team was activated, and Lynn Mortensen responded in her volunteer role as diver. According to investigators at the scene, Mortensen entered the body of water in freezing weather during the hours of darkness and performed her assignment in exemplary fashion, despite having to contend with ice and mud. She recovered the victim's body from the pond, which confirmed the death and allowed the Major Crime Team to move forward with the investigation without further delay. In addition to the nighttime mission, she returned the following morning and continued the search for corroborating evidence to aid in the investigation. Entering the frozen pond, Mortensen contended with ice, shallow waters, and thick mud, all of which created difficulty swimming. She continued to dive without complaint and located additional evidence associated with the homicide. Lynn Mortensen's service in this case is greatly appreciated by all involved in the investigation, and the Klamath County Sheriff's Office is proud to have her represent them as a member of the Klamath County Dive Rescue. Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Paige Butler, Deputy Jeff DeHaan, Deputy Christopher Reed, and Deputy Hugh Smith. On November 2, 2019 at approximately 3:04 p.m., while conducting an inmate welfare check, Deputy Smith observed an individual in his cell lying on the floor on his back. Smith asked the individual if he was okay, but received no verbal response. The deputy entered the cell to further evaluate the individual. Neither a pulse nor breathing were detected. EMS was requested, and Smith immediately began administering chest compressions. The AED was requested and placed on the individual by Deputy Butler. At 3:07, the AED was activated and a shock was administered, after which Smith continued chest compressions until 3:08, when he was relieved by Deputy Reed. At 3:09, Reed was relieved by Deputy DeHaan, and the AED administered a second shock, after which DeHaan continued chest compressions. Smith relieved DeHaan, and a minute later, the AED again advised an additional shock. After it was administered, Smith continued chest compressions until relieved by Newport Fire personnel at 3:15. At approximately 3:25, while preparing the individual for transport to the hospital, the lead EMT instructed medics to stop providing chest compressions as he had a pulse. The Lincoln County Jail facility physician stated that the life-saving aid that was provided to this individual saved his life. The quick actions of the staff on duty during this incident truly speak to their training, character, and dedication to their profession. Marion County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Cody Kreitz, Deputy Carlos Hernandez, Deputy Cynthia Houghton, Commander Tad Larson, Deputy Jesse Tecadina, and Nurse Jessica Villanueva. On March 28, 2020, an adult in custody had a medical emergency in the recreation yard of the housing units of the Marion County Jail. Deputy Kreitz was working the unit and was advised by another adult in custody of the medical issue in the recreation yard. Kreitz called for additional staff and medical to respond. They found the subject unresponsive, lying on the ground in the recreation yard. At the time, it appeared that the subject was having a seizure. As staff evaluated the subject, he stopped seizing and became totally unresponsive. He did not have a pulse, and staff immediately began life-saving measures. CPR was conducted by Deputies Kreitz, Houghton, Tacadina, and Hernandez until medical arrived and attached an AED. The AED delivered 2 shocks to the subject. Staff continued to rotate, conducting CPR after the second shock was delivered, and Nurse Villanueva found a pulse. The individual was placed into a rescue position by staff until medics arrived and took over the care. The individual left the facility conscious and alert and made a full recovery. The quick thinking and actions of the staff involved saved his life. Today, we honor these professionals for their skill and dedication to the well-being of those in their care. Washington County Sheriff's Office, Criminal Record Specialist 2, Joanne Sire. Criminal Record Specialist 2, Joanne Sire, has worked for the Washington County Sheriff's Office for over 17 years. She has been instrumental in investigating several high-level cases involving homicide, robbery, arson, child abuse, assault, and elder abuse. Sire consistently brings a positive attitude and tenured experience, and she provides the tedious and backbone work for criminal investigations that involve records checks, database searches, and locating victim, witnesses, suspect, contact information. During the Chad Pitcher homicide investigation, Sire provided timely and useful information that was forwarded to the U.S. Marshals who captured a dangerous suspect. In another case, Sire recently provided timely background information during an elder financial abuse investigation where the victims, a 72 and 85-year-old couple with Alzheimer's, were in the continued danger of abuse because the suspects still resided with the victims. Her assistance allowed detectives to create a hasty response plan and remove the suspects from the home. Sire is an exemplar of the Washington County Sheriff's Office core values, and she is a consummate public servant. Her dedication to duty can be highlighted by the numerous acts of distinguished and meritorious service in bringing the criminal cases to successful and just prosecutions. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Joanne Sire reflect great credit upon herself and the Washington County Sheriff's Office, and well-deserving of OSSA's Distinguished Service Award. The Association of Oregon Counties and Oregon State Sheriff's Association Legislative Team. Rob Lovett, AOC Legal Counsel. Kevin Campbell, OSSA Lobbyist, and Jason Myers, OSSA Executive Director. We'd like to take this opportunity to recognize the extraordinary teamwork and efforts of Rob Lovett, Kevin Campbell, and Jason Myers during the 2020 legislative sessions. The legislative sessions have been a grueling task this year. Jason and Kevin worked around the clock during both special sessions to keep the legislature from enacting bills that would damage the ability for police to do their job in Oregon. The second special session required them to negotiate with legislative leadership from early in the morning until late in the evening on many consecutive days, including weekends. After that marathon, the second session wrapped up at 11 p.m. on Monday night. Rob was instrumental in drafting compromise legislation to present to the legislators. On one bill, he created 15 separate drafts of the bill over an approximately 24-hour period. While AOC certainly has an interest in police reform, Rob was under no obligation to spend the amount of time and effort necessary to help OSSA and OACP reach an effective compromise. Due to their dedicated efforts and outstanding work while demonstrating selflessness, law enforcement ended up in great position, particularly compared to where the bills started out. Rob, Kevin, and Jason went so far above and beyond that they are very deserving of this recognition. Distinguished Action Award. This award is presented for an act involving personal danger in the performance of duty or a highly credible, uncommon agency accomplishment performed under adverse conditions. Klamath County Sheriff's Office Deputy Gage Knox. Corrections Deputy Gage Knox, while attending DPSST Basic Corrections Academy, had arrived home for the weekend late Friday night, August 7th. The next morning he went grocery shopping at a busy strip mall. While shopping, he heard a gunshot outside and people stating there was a shooter in the parking lot. Knox ensured 911 was contacted and positioned himself to observe what was occurring. He saw the gunman standing in front of the business next to the grocery store with a pistol, arguing with two men. Knox retrieved his firearm and approached the men, identifying himself as the deputy with the Klamath County Sheriff's Office. He ordered the gunman to stop and disarmed him. The other two men then approached and attempted to assault the gunman. Gage separated the man and held the gunman until deputies arrived. The gunman and the two other men were in previous altercations, and the suspect had been trespassed from the location. He had returned to the area with his wife to shop, where he had again approached the two men and an argument ensued. He retrieved his firearm from his vehicle and re-engaged with the men, firing one round from the pistol and continually menacing the two until Knox intervened. If not for his intervention, the violence would have no doubt continued. The incident could have been resulted in the serious injury or death of one of the involved parties or bystander. Today, we honor Deputy Knox for a skilled de-escalation of the volatile situation with the OSSA Distinguished Action Award. Lake County Sheriff's Office Deputy Craig Kinsley. On September 12, 2020, Deputy Craig Kinsley of the Lake County Sheriff's Office responded to the Motel 8 in Lakeview regarding an individual in room 112 discharging a firearm from within the motel. Multiple shots had been fired and patrons from the motel were forced to evacuate their rooms. The 911 dispatcher received numerous calls regarding the incident. The dispatcher relayed the information to Kinsley that shots had been fired at the motel and several windows had been broken. Kinsley believed he was responding to a criminal mischief complaint where the motel windows had been broken. Shortly after arriving at the scene, Kinsley began surveying the damage. Kinsley began walking in front of two citizens who had just exited their room and were walking in the direction of room 112. The door to room 112 suddenly opened and a male began exiting the room with a pistol in his hand, pointing him directly in front of him. Kinsley stepped in front of the two citizens and verbally engaged the shooter at the same time. Kinsley commanded the shooter to drop his weapon. The shooter retreated 2 to 3 steps back into his room and pointed his pistol at Kinsley while attempting to close the door. Kinsley discharged his weapon one time as the suspect slammed the motel door. As the incident progressed, it was determined that the suspect was an individual the Lake County Sheriff's Office had dealt with on numerous occasions. He was known to have mental health issues, was a drug user, and was very volatile. He had earned a reputation in the law enforcement community as an extreme danger. Kinsley secured the main exit of the motel room and cleared the parking lot of patrons while waiting backup units. The Oregon State Police SWAT team was contacted and subsequently forced entry into the motel room. The suspect was discovered lying next to the door and was deceased. He had been struck by one round in the chest and succumbed shortly thereafter. Deputy Kinsley's quick and decisive action in shielding the two patrons with his body may have saved their lives, as well as many lives who were placed in peril by an active shooter. For his exemplary response, we present Deputy Kinsley the Distinguished Action Award. Lane County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Cody Crawford, Deputy Dylan Lemieux, OSP Trooper Janice Sweet. On August 3, 2020, at about 1:41 a.m., the Lane County Sheriff's Office received a report of a shooting that had just occurred off London Road in rural South Lane County. The caller advised that she had been shot along with 3 others inside the residence who were much more severely injured than herself. In her words, one male victim's leg was practically blown off and another man had been shot 3 times and seemed to be losing consciousness. The suspect's whereabouts were unknown, however, he reportedly lived next door and was still armed. It was later learned that he was in possession of an AR-15 style .223 caliber rifle and large caliber semi-automatic handgun. The incident location is over 30 miles south of Eugene, and responding Lane County deputies were aided by OSP Trooper Sweet and several Douglas County deputies responding from the south to assist. The location was a rural property with a long gravel driveway, numerous broken down vehicles, and brush, making for a situation where the suspect would have the advantage and ability to ambush responding law enforcement. Based on the reported seriousness of the injuries, the decision was made to drive directly into the scene despite the danger of an at-large shooter. Deputies Crawford and Lemieux and Trooper Sweet drove up the gravel driveway, activated emergency lights, and began hailing occupants to exit the residence. A woman quickly exited the house, claiming she had been shot and calling for help for the others inside. A hasty team was formed and moved to the residence. Upon entering the dwelling, they encountered the 2 injured men lying on the floor. Crawford, Lemieux, and Sweet began first aid with a tourniquet required for both victims to stop the bleeding. Paramedics arrived and the injured were carried to the ambulances. Lemieux was needed to drive an ambulance to the life flight zone so the paramedic driver could continue emergency patient care. The suspect later surrendered to deputies near the location of the shooting. Weighted against the significant personal risk was the underlying need for emergent medical aid for the wounded inside. The treatment these law enforcement professionals provided to the injured is a testament to their training, courage, and composure. All 4 victims are to this day still alive. It is our pleasure to present these professionals with the Distinguished Action Award. Life-Saving Awards. This award is presented for action by an individual who performed an active, distinctive, and successful saving of another person's life. There must have been a strong possibility the person would have died if the action had not been taken. Events leading to the act were not carelessly caused by the person nominated for the award. The action would not include what is already expected in the member's day-to-day duties. Clackamas County Sheriff's Office Deputy Stephen Hunter. On June 19, 2020, at about 11:25 p.m., Deputy Hunter responded to a fatal traffic crash on Southeast Highway 224 outside Eagle Creek. On arrival, he noted a vehicle fully engulfed in flames, both vehicles leaking fluids, and a victim trapped in a vehicle which was not yet on fire. At that time, the victim in the second vehicle was attempting to cool himself from the flames via a spray bottle. Fire personnel and EMS were not on scene. Hunter swiftly acted, extricating the victim from his damaged vehicle before the flames could reach him or cause the vehicle to become fully engulfed in flames as well. Deputy Hunter risked his personal safety, taking immediate action in the face of grave danger to save the life of an innocent civilian. His actions likely saved the victim from severe injury or death. Columbia County Sheriff's Office Deputy Maria Trask. On September 9, 2020, Deputy Maria Trask encountered the scene of a traffic crash on Highway 30 near milepost 15. Oregon State Police troopers were already at the location, and Trask stopped to render any necessary aid to the victims of the crash. Trask assessed the injuries to the victims, one of whom had serious injuries to his arm. Trask initially removed her belt to use as a tourniquet before locating an actual tourniquet to apply. It was later learned through OSP that the male victim was suffering from a severe hemorrhage in his left artery and would have bled out and died prior to medical arriving if not for Deputy Trask's quick action. Her skills and professionalism reflect her commitment to serve and protect. Coos County Sheriff's Office. Citizens James Murray, Sandy Murray, Sam Swenson, Justin Grubbs, Kobe Gilbert, Josh Mendoza, Jake Sewell, Dalen Brown. On Friday, May 15, 2020, the Coos County Sheriff's Office responded to assist Fairview Fire, Dora Sitcom Fire, Myrtle Point Ambulance, and Coquille Ambulance at an ATV crash on BLM Spur Road off of Burt Mountain Access Road in a remote part of Coos County. The involved ATV had traveled down a steep embankment coming to rest in a creek drainage where the ATV and its occupants were unable to be seen from the roadway. James and Sandy Murray were out for a drive in the area and noticed a gas can on the side of the road, which James thought was odd. James stopped to investigate. Though nothing was visible from the roadway, James called out down the embankment and heard a reply calling for help. James immediately contacted OnStar, which greatly improved response times by providing first responders with accurate GPS coordinates. While James and Sandy were providing information for first responders to access the scene, 6 young men, Sam Swenson, Justin Grubbs, Kobe Gilbert, Josh Mendoza, Jake Sewell, and Dalen Brown, came upon the location where James and Sandy were parked above the crash. After learning what had happened, these 6 young men went into immediate action and hiked down to the 2 injured parties in extremely steep and difficult terrain. Information was relayed that one of the injured parties had a possible leg fracture and the other had a head injury and other possible fractures. As first responders arrived on the scene, a complicated technical rope rescue was initiated and both patients were pulled approximately 200 yards up the steep embankment to the roadway for emergency medical treatment. The time needed to accomplish the rope rescue was substantially shortened as manpower was already in place on the hillside and the patients when first responders arrived. One of the patients was transported via helicopter and the other was transported via ambulance. Without the actions of James Murray, Sandy Murray, Sam Swenson, Justin Grubbs, Kobe Gilbert, Josh Mendoza, Jake Sewell, and Dalen Brown, it is likely the 2 critically injured patients would not have been discovered or rescued prior to succumbing to the elements and their injuries. These 8 people set an example of caring for others and making a difference. Coos County Sheriff's Office Deputy Jonathan Holder. On September 26, 2020, Deputy Jonathan Holder was on Marine Patrol on South 10 Mile Lake when he received a report from dispatch of a jet ski which had blown up, seriously injuring 2 individuals and throwing them into the lake. Due to Holder's location on the lake, he arrived within a matter of minutes and leaped into action. Upon arrival, Holder noticed a woman with several lacerations who was out of the water, bleeding uncontrollably, and a man who was badly injured and still partially submerged in the water. The male victim was unable to assist with his rescue due to several injuries, including a very serious compound fracture to his leg. Holder successfully pulled the man from the water. During this time, Holder was able to communicate important information to dispatch, including the nature of the injuries to the victims and what resources were needed for evacuation, including air support. During his triage of the victims, Holder was unable to control the bleeding from the female victim's serious lacerations to her arm. He utilized his combat tourniquet from his duty uniform, placing it on the woman's arm and ultimately stopping the blood flow, likely saving her life. Holder continued to assess the situation and applied aid to the male victim's serious compound leg fracture prior to medical person arriving on scene. Holder took command of the intense situation and coordinated water, land, and air assets until both victims were successfully transported to medical facilities. Because of his decisive and immediate actions, both victims survived the incident and will recover from their injuries. Deputy Jonathan Holder's actions have brought great credit to himself and are in keeping with the highest standards of law enforcement. He is very deserving of the Oregon State Sheriff's Association Life Saving Award. Coos County Sheriff's Office Deputy Matthew Whitmer. On July 8, 2020, at approximately 9:30 a.m., a medical call came across the mobile dispatch computer. It so happened, when the call came in, Deputy Matthew Whitmer was seconds away from the scene. The nature of the call was chilling. A 3-week-old female infant not breathing. Whitmer exited his marked vehicle in the driveway, met by the panicked mother of the infant. The infant was extended in her arms, and as described by Whitmer, the baby was completely blue and motionless. Whitmer repositioned the child and began to check the airway, and he delivered 3 swift blows to the baby's back. The child began discharging fluids from its mouth, and Whitmer completed a finger sweep of the infant's mouth. The child then began breathing and crying on her own. Medical units from the Charleston Fire arrived on scene a few minutes later, taking over the scene. The child later took a life flight to Dornbecker Children's Hospital in Portland. On July 14, 2020, the child was released from Dornbecker, having been diagnosed with a genetic issue with her airway, which is being treated and monitored. On a day-to-day basis, with the advent of the mobile dispatch computer, Coos County deputies have not only police calls that come across the screen, but they also have fire emergency medical calls, which populate at a very fast rate at times. There are times due to call rates that it's hard for even seasoned deputies to keep track of the police calls for service. Deputy Matthew Whitmer's attention to detail that day and his actions on scene are a direct reflection of his professionalism and commitment to serve as a deputy sheriff for the Coos County Sheriff's Office. Deschutes County Sheriff's Office, citizens Larry Abbott, Cody Dyer, Curtis Goldworthy, and Ray Chiradella. On June 10, 2020 at 4:20 a.m., Deschutes County Sheriff's deputies were dispatched to a head-on motor vehicle crash 53 miles east of Bend. According to dispatch, one car was fully engulfed and a pickup was dangerously close to the flames with 2 occupants still trapped inside. While deputies responded to the scene, the pickup caught on fire. Before deputies could arrive, 4 civilian truck drivers managed to pull the driver of the pickup through the driver's side window to safety just seconds before the pickup was fully engulfed in flames. Deputies responded and applied tourniquets and chest seals prior to the driver being transported to St. Charles Medical Center by air ambulance. The selfless actions of Cody Dyer, Larry Abbott, Curtis Goldworthy, and Ray Chiradella saved the life of Timothy Dunn that morning. Dunn's pickup truck was fully engulfed in flames before deputies could arrive. Dunn told deputies he is 5'10" and weighs 400 pounds. These 4 managed to pull Dunn through the window to safety. Ray suffered bruises on his hand from trying to pry open the driver's door, and Curtis was treated for smoke inhalation at the scene. We are grateful to those citizens for their heroic actions. Klamath County Sheriff's Office Deputy Levi Justman. On February 28, 2020, at 11:52 p.m., Klamath County law enforcement responded to a report of shots being fired and several gunshot victims. Deputy Levi Justman and Reserve Deputy Joey Clifford arrived at the scene 3 minutes later and observed a large gathering of people in the trailer park and 2 subjects on the ground. Justman instructed to cover him as he was going to assess medical needs. The suspect had fled the scene. Both victims had been shot with a 9mm pistol. The first victim was screaming loudly and complaining about the pain as he guarded his right leg. There was blood at his groin area and a small puddle of blood underneath him, gathering on the ground. While assessing the first victim, Justman was called on to assess the second victim, who was stretched straight out on the ground and was pale white. He was not moving or complaining of pain. His breathing was shallow and he was in and out of consciousness. His pants were saturated with blood and Justman was unable to observe where the blood was coming from. Justman removed the pants, locating a bullet wound on the right leg. He immediately recognized the arterial bleed and placed a tourniquet above the wound. At 11:57 p.m., Justman notified 911 dispatch that he had placed a tourniquet on the victim and advised it was clear for medical to respond. Within 2 minutes of arriving on scene, Justman had assessed the patient and properly applied a tourniquet. He directed a bystander to stay with the victim and monitor his status. The victim's color continued to fade. he turned his attention back to the first victim, who was still screaming and clutching his right leg. The victim was rolled onto his left side so the wounds could be examined. Justman located a bullet hole that was not bleeding badly. EMS arrived on scene and transported the victim by ambulance. The first victim suffered a shattered femur. The second victim suffered a severed femoral artery and was in critical condition. The attending physician noted that if the tourniquet had not been applied by Deputy Justman, the victim would have lost his life. Klamath County Sheriff's Office, Deputies Ryan Hampson, Patrick Snyder, Raleigh Nags, and Corporal Daniel Saltenberger. On December 11, 2019, Deputy Nags was working in a pod of the Klamath County Jail. At approximately 9 p.m., an adult in custody tied a sheet around his neck, tied the other end to the second-story railing of the housing unit, and climbed over the railing in an attempt to harm or kill himself. Nags saw this and called for backup. Deputies Hampson and Snyder and Corporal Saltenberger responded to the backup call. As they entered the section, they began trying to talk the subject back to the safe side of the railing. Saltenberger went up the stairs to the level where the sheet was tied. When negotiations didn't work, Saltenberger was able to pin the subject's arm through the railing, preventing the subject from falling and hanging himself. Hampson and Snyder held the subject in the air from the bottom floor, and Nags ran up the stairs and assisted Saltenberger in untying the sheet from the railing. Once untied, deputies were able to lower the subject to the bottom floor and remove the sheet from his neck. The subject was moved to a suicide prevention protocol and later treated for underlying mental health issues. He was eventually returned to the general population. We commend these deputies for their life-saving efforts. Lynn County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Garrett Berner. On July 8, 2020 at 4:21 a.m., Deputy Garrett Berner responded to a known drug house at an address on Fuller Lane in Lebanon for a shooting. The victim, a 27-year-old male, had just been shot in the chest by an unknown suspect. Berner found the male victim outside on the ground with what he described as a sucking chest wound. After checking the area for the shooter, Berner provided first aid to the victim. He improvised with duct tape to seal the entry, chest, and exit hole on the back of the wounds. He also cleaned the areas of the gunshot wounds from blood with the victim's shirt. Once the area was cleaned, he then placed chest seals over the wounds to better seal them. The victim was hyperventilating, and Berner knew he had to get to the victim to slow his breathing and heart rate, or his injury would be fatal, as medics had not yet arrived on scene. Berner coached the victim to take slow breaths, thus preventing further damage to the victim's lungs. Berner kept the victim from lying on the ground, as he was aware that this may cause the victim's lungs to more easily fill with blood. At the hospital, it was learned the victim did in fact have a punctured lung from the gunshot wound and had lost a fair amount of blood. If not treated immediately, and if allowed to lay down or to continue to breathe in a quick and hyper state, the victim may not have survived this near fatal wound. On this day, Deputy Berner's instincts, training, and compassion likely saved this man's life. We present Deputy Berner with the OSSA's Life Saving Award. Lynn County Sheriff's Office, Deputies Caleb Carlson, Kyle Connolly, Paul Eves, and Dakota Henricks. On August 1, 2020 at 4:20 p.m., the Lynn County Sheriff's Office responded to a call of a 10-year-old boy with his leg stuck under a rock at McKercher Park in some shallow rapids. As emergency personnel, including members of the Lynn County Sheriff's Office, arrived on scene, the scenario turned out to be much more than a simple stuck ankle. The child was in 4 to 5 feet of water, the water was rushing, and the child was being held by an adult male who himself had also become stuck in the rock. Several dozen citizens jumped into action trying to make a human dam to slow and divert the flow of the water. Both the male and the boy were at risk of drowning if the water could not be diverted from their face until freed. Deputies Kyle Connolly, Deputies Dakota Henricks, Deputy Caleb Carlson, and Deputy Paul Eves arrived and immediately realized the gravity of the situation. Many of the citizens who had already been in the water were getting tired and having a hard time with the rushing rapids they were in. Connolly and Henricks stripped off their gear to join the group in and near the water to assist in diverting the water and holding the man and child above the waterline. Carlson made numerous trips back to emergency vehicles, grabbing backboards from EMS vehicles and running them to the water's edge, where they were used to assist in damming and diverting water away from the 2 stuck individuals. Eves was making calls and assisting with developing courses of action to find a solution to the situation. This was a chaotic situation that, if not rectified, could have resulted in the traumatic injury or death of a child and quite possibly the adult male who put himself in danger to help the child. The quick, decisive decisions and immediate planning by these deputies likely helped save both lives. Ultimately, the child and male were rescued from the precarious situation through the cooperation of fire and EMS, the Linn County Sheriff's Office, and citizens, all working together to prevent these victims from drowning until they were freed. We present Deputy Kyle Conley, Deputy Dakota Henricks, Deputy Caleb Carlson, and Deputy Paul Eves with OSSA's Life Saving Award. Polk County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Thomas Hutchinson, and Reserve Deputy Quentin Ein. On August 22, 2020, Deputies Thomas Hutchinson and Reserve Deputy Quentin Ein were patrolling the Willamette River on jet skis. They received an emergency call from a boater that a male was holding a juvenile above the water. Upon the deputies' arrival, they discovered that a male, an 11-year-old boy, had gone to the west side of Wells Island due to the mix of weather and not paying attention to the hazard signs, which directed boaters to the other side of Wells Island. The signs were placed in the area as a tuber had tragically lost her life at the same location the previous summer. The deputies learned that the current had pushed the male on his kayak and the juvenile on a tube into the same tree. The kayak was sucked underneath the tree and the tube was caught up in the tree. The male was able to climb onto a limb while the 11-year-old hung onto another limb for close to 30 minutes until the two deputies arrived. Hutchinson was able to maneuver his jet ski into the snag of trees and rescue the boy, and Ein was able to rescue the other male. They later returned with a patrol boat and recovered the kayak and tube to prevent the boating public from endangering themselves in recovery attempts. The next day, the father of the child emailed Sheriff Garton with the following information. Dear Sheriff Garton, I would like to inform you of the amazing work that 3 of your deputies did on the river yesterday. We were doing a float trip from Buena Vista and our party got separated and my son, Walter, and my dear friend, Brent, ended up stranded on fallen trees. After 911 was called, the deputies, Thomas Hutchinson provided his business card, I neglected to get the other 2 deputies' names, responded very quickly, professionally, and kindly. My son and friend were in real treacherous position. My friend's kayak had sunk and the possibility of drowning, even with their life jackets, was very possible. I am grateful that these 3 men were able to save my son and friend's lives. As I and another in our party attempted to walk up river to help, we were also most appreciative of the deputies taking us on the Sea-Doo to safety. Your department also took our entire group and the kayaks back to the Buena Vista landing. On reflection, we were all foolish and unprepared for what we had gotten ourselves into. Even with this in mind, the deputies were not scolding or punitive. Many, many thanks for all of your professionalism. In these times, I wish that such an amazing police work could be captured on film. Words cannot convey my gratitude to your department. Respectfully, Keith I. Lynn. We join with Mr. Lynn in expressing our gratitude to Deputy Hutchinson and Reserve Deputy Ein for their speedy and skilled action that day and present them with the OSSA Life Saving Award. Washington County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Meg Just. On September 27, 2020 at 11:50 p.m., deputies were dispatched to an assault with a weapon in the unincorporated area of Washington County. It was reported that a 17-year-old male had been shot multiple times. When Deputy Meg Just arrived, she observed 2 individuals supporting the victim by sitting him upright on the hood of a car. When she got to the victim, she observed one of the people holding a blood-soaked towel to the back of the victim. The victim was moaning, gasping for breath, and looked pale. Just took immediate action and pulled up the front of the victim's clothing, locating the entry wound and observed blood and air bubbles leaking from it. Just located another hole in the victim's back and she could see air bubbles emanating from it. When the victim breathed, she could hear air rushing out of both wounds. Just, who had recently completed tactical casualty care training, recognized this was indicative of sucking chest wound. Just took charge of the situation and asked another deputy to get a chest seal. Just applied pressure to the front of the victim's chest while keeping a towel under him to keep pressure on the rear wound. She and another deputy lowered the victim to the ground so pressure could be applied easier. As Just was applying pressure, she observed what appeared to be gushing bright colored blood, emanating from a wound in the victim's neck and shoulder area. Recognizing the seriousness of this wound, Just transitioned her pressure points so her left hand continued the pressure on the front chest wound while her right hand attempted to stem the blood flow from the neck and shoulder wound. The pressure on the rear wound at this time was still being supported by the towel. The victim continued to bleed from his neck wound despite just direct pressure. She just inserted her finger into the wound while applying pressure to stop the continued bleeding. Deputy Just, also recognizing the ongoing accumulation of air in the chest, occasionally released her pressure, allowing escape of that air buildup. Although she took preventative measures through the use of personal protective equipment, gloves, Just was still heavily exposed to the victim's blood, which covered her arms and soaked through her pants while she treated him for his injuries. She disregarded her own well-being to protect the life of the victim and care for him until he was transported to the hospital by ambulance. Once at the hospital, she continued her investigation by interviewing the victim to gather information about possible suspects. Deputy Just's swift and decisive action on September 27th afforded a shooting victim time to make it to the hospital alive, where he was stabilized and ultimately survived his injuries. Her unselfish efforts exposed her to known hazards to her own safety, but that didn't stop her from providing life-saving care to a critically injured citizen of Washington County. Awarded to a sheriff or deputy who in the line of duty gives their life or distinguishes themselves by the performance of an act of courage involving the risk of immediate danger to their life while having knowledge of such risk and whose actions are above and beyond the call of duty. Klamath County Sheriff's Office, OSP Trooper Justin Henrick, OSP Trooper Cameron Gordon, Klamath County Deputy Shasta Peterson, Klamath County Deputy Maria Gray, OSP Recruit Trooper Kyle Torres, OSP Lieutenant Donnie Miller, Deputy Levi Justman, Sergeant Austin Hobson, and Klamath County Deputy Jimmy Leach. On Friday, April 10th, 2020 at 4:14 p.m., Klamath County 911 received a report of a disturbance on Fargo Street in Klamath Falls. The reporting party advised that the suspect had arrived intoxicated to the address. The suspect was reported to have taken his 6-year-old child with him, and he had a semi-automatic rifle in the front seat of the vehicle. Klamath County 911 broadcast an attempt to locate for the suspect's vehicle. OSP Sergeant Hobson located the Toyota RAV4 as it was traveling northbound on Crater Lake Parkway between Portland Street and Bine Street. A short time later, officers began to pursue the suspect who attempted to elude them. While officers pursued, Deputy Levi Justman was able to get into position to stop-stick the suspect vehicle. Shortly afterwards, Trooper Justin Henrick performed a tactical vehicle intervention on the suspect vehicle and it stopped on Wokas Road, a secondary roadway. The suspect immediately began firing from his vehicle at the officers on scene. The vehicles of Henrick and Trooper Cameron Gordon and Deputies Shasta Peters and Maria Gray all sustained damage from gunfire. Henrick, while taking the majority of the fire, waited until a lull and returned fire, striking the suspect and incapacitating him. Peterson then rescued the 6-year-old from the vehicle unharmed and is seen on the video running with the child in her arms to a safe location. Gordon sustained a gunshot wound during the firefight. Recruit Trooper Kyle Torres initially performed first aid on Gordon. OSP Lieutenant Donnie Miller and Deputy Jimmy Leach, responding to the scene, continued first aid while evacuating Gordon to a safe area for medical personnel to evaluate and transport. Gordon was released from the hospital and is continuing his recovery today. For their courage and commitment to their mission in the face of grave danger and the professionalism in coordinating efforts between agencies under extreme pressure, for their courage and commitment to their mission in the face of grave danger and their professionalism in coordinating efforts between agencies under extreme pressure, we present the Award for Valor to these law enforcement professionals. Tillamook County Sheriff's Office Deputy Ben Berger. On April 28, 2020, Tillamook County deputies assisted the U.S. Marshals Service with attempting to locate an armed career criminal suspect who had fled from them. The marshals had attempted to conduct a traffic stop and take a subject in custody. As they initiated the stop, the vehicle fled and the marshals lost sight of him. Deputy Ben Berger and Deputy Dennis Greiner in a 2-man car responded to the area where the suspect vehicle had last been seen. Berger talked to residents and discovered a vehicle matching the suspect vehicle had been observed northbound on Kilchis River Road. The particular road leads to a remote forest area north of Tillamook. Berger began driving the forest roads attempting to find the vehicle and was able to locate fresh tire marks on a newly graded road. Both deputies got out of their vehicle to investigate a spur road that looked like it had recently been traveled on. The suspect vehicle was located on the spur road and the suspect began to accelerate towards Greiner. who was standing outside the patrol vehicle. Berger realized that Greiner was in immediate danger and was likely going to be struck by the suspect vehicle. Acting quickly, Berger accelerated his patrol vehicle and struck the suspect vehicle on the passenger side, which prevented Greiner from being hit by the fleeing suspect's vehicle. The suspect vehicle was damaged in the collision, but was able to again flee the area. However, Greiner was unharmed in the incident. The suspect vehicle fled down the forest road, nearly hitting two other emergency vehicles that were responding to assist. The suspect was eventually apprehended by responding law enforcement units and members of the U.S. Marshals Service. Deputies Berger's quick action and courageous efforts on that day prevented the serious injury or death of his fellow deputy and hampered the suspect's ability to flee. He was then able to provide information to additional law enforcement units so the suspect could be taken into custody. Leupold Community Hero Award.
I'm Bruce Pettit, CEO of Leupold & Stevens. I'm so honored to be presenting the Leupold Community Hero Award today. Before I present the award, I want to take a moment to say thank you to all of our sheriffs and their teams. It has been a difficult year for all Americans, but I know it has been exponentially difficult for law enforcement, especially here in Oregon. I want to personally say thank you for your dedication and commitment to all of us. You are truly appreciated. The Leupold Community Hero Award recognizes individuals who demonstrate the Leupold core values of iconic passion, serving something greater than yourself, faithful companion, upholding our commitment to ourselves, those we serve, and those we lead, true collaboration, where we know together anything is possible. This award is the pinnacle of the OSSA award ceremony as it highlights Sheriff's Office professionals who, through their demonstration of above-mentioned core values, are making their community a stronger, safer, and better place for all. This year's award actually isn't going to an individual, but instead it is being awarded to sheriff's offices for their incredible response to the savage Labor Day fires that devastated western and southern Oregon. These wildfires required quick action by deputies, forced thousands to be evacuated, and strained the resources of sheriff's offices to maintain checkpoints and security of areas that had been evacuated. In the end, these wildfires consumed over 1 million acres and destroyed numerous small communities, thousands of homes and buildings, and claimed the lives of at least 9 Oregonians. Had it not been for the heroic acts of courageous sheriffs and deputies across the state, the death toll would have been much higher, as the force, magnitude, and speed of these fires was overwhelming to first responders. To give you a feel for some of the acts of heroism that took place during these wildfires, I'd like to share a couple of examples. Jackson County Corporal John Richmond worked courageously with other first responders to evacuate people from the cities of Talent and Phoenix. Jackson County deputies who pulled 2 men and a dog from a burning travel trailer by using a table umbrella to break the window of the trailer to effect the rescue. Deputies for the Marion County Sheriff's Office who, when told they were running out of time and the escape route was closing, remained courageous and unwilling to leave until all evacuations were completed. Clackamas County deputies who worked tireless hours as incident commanders managing massive law enforcement resources for several weeks with no days off. Sheriff's volunteers who helped with roadway checkpoints, patrolled evacuated areas, and provided security for the evacuees that took shelter at county fairgrounds and other public locations. We have received numerous award nominations for individuals this year from just about every sheriff's office that responded to this event in their county. While each nomination is worthy of an award, the awards committee felt strongly that it was fitting to recognize all the sheriff's offices that responded to these fires and the weeks of recovery afterwards. The counties that will be receiving this year's Leupold Community Hero Award are Clackamas,
Douglas,
Jackson, Klamath, Lane, Lincoln, Lynn, Marion, Washington, and Yamhill. In the true spirit of working together, the following counties are being recognized for their assistance by sending law enforcement resources to the counties that were faced with weeks of wildfire operations: Baker, Benton, Clatsop, Columbia, Deschutes, Gilliam, Hood River, Polk, Umatilla, Wallowa, and Yamhill. Again, thank you for your bravery and your commitment to serving your communities regardless of the danger that you faced. We appreciate you. We hope you guys have a great event, and we look forward to continuing to be a proud sponsor of OSSA.
Sheriff of the Year Award. The recipient of this award is selected by the OSSA Awards Committee based upon their assessment of the participation and contributions made by member sheriffs toward our objectives and efforts in the current year. This award signifies exemplary service beyond merely committee chairmanship. For example, it is not mandatory that this award be issued every year, if in the view of the nominating committee it is not clearly justified. Please congratulate Sheriff Matt English. From the moment he took the office of Hood River County Sheriff in January 2013, Sheriff Matt English has been actively involved with the Oregon State Sheriff's Association. Because of his involvement, Sheriff English was quickly elected Secretary in 2016, Vice President in 2017, and President of the Association in 2018. As a former president, Sheriff English now serves on the OSSA Executive Committee, as well as several other committees including Command College, Deputy Sheriff Academy, and New Sheriff Academy, Legislative, Marine Board, Public Lands, Strategic Communications, Transient Room Tax, SARAC, web-based training. He also serves on the School Crisis Response Task Force in the OSSA representative on the DPSST Corrections Policy Committee and is a liaison for Amber Alert. Sheriff English has worked with legislators and recreation stakeholders to develop a search and rescue card wherein individuals can donate money for statewide search and rescue operations at locations where sporting and recreation licenses, passes, and permits are sold. Sheriff English has spent time away from his own county to testify before legislative committees representing the interests of OSSA and Oregon sheriffs. He is also the active participant in representing OSSA on the Oregon Law Enforcement Leadership Forum. This forum meets weekly, discussing legislative issues and forming strategies to best engage on public safety-related legislation. Sheriff English actively participates in all OSSA meetings. When he can't participate, which is very seldom, he advises the committee of his inability to attend. Sheriff English demonstrates a calm approach when dealing with complex issues and shows the utmost respect even when stating an imposing viewpoint to others. Sheriff English is a forward and critical thinking individual who exemplifies the professionalism that all elected sheriffs should display. For these reasons and more, Sheriff Matt English is most deserving of the Sheriff of the Year Award for 2020. Congratulations to OSSA Sheriff of the Year, Sheriff Matt English. Introduction of 2021 OSSA officers. OSSA President. OSSA Vice President. OSSA Secretary. OSSA Treasurer. Thank you for viewing our 2020 Oregon State Sheriff's Association Awards presentation. I'd like to again congratulate all this year's award winners. I would also like to express my sincerest appreciation for the hard work and dedication that our 36 sheriffs and sheriff's offices provide for all our communities across the state.